BiggerPocketsRealEstateInvestments.com, where I teach you how to find affordable investment properties with confidence, hard work, and a little peace of mind. Hello, this is Lisa Phillips, and welcome to AffordableRealEstateInvestments.com. It's where I give you an honest and practical guide to real estate investing at a price you can afford. Today's guest, I am very excited and honored to have on is Richelle Thomas. Hello, Richelle.
Hello, hello.
I met Richelle through BiggerPockets, not necessarily. She came to my blog because she was ready to invest in real estate. She decided real estate investing. She was so sure she was going to buy this duplex or a property for 150,000. Saw my videos and held up. She was like 150,000 or 30,000. I could do 30,000. So she waited and she read through all the blog posts and entries, and that's actually really cool too. The stuff really works. And she went ahead and bought three in her first year. She was talking about it on a sub 30K property forum, a pretty popular forum that's on BiggerPockets right now. And I just reached out to her because I love the fact that she did it within this price range, and the fact that she came to my blog to do it even blows sort of my mind because I know what's happening, but it is so nice having that person right in front of you to explain exactly how they listen to your system and how like it really helped them towards financial freedom. And I want to ask her, for you guys, how and what she got started, and maybe I can learn something, and I hope all of you do. But I really want to see, on this, path to wealth creation, how she's doing it, utilizing some of my tools, and where she's going to go in the future. So I do highly, highly appreciate this, Richelle, for coming on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Lisa. One quick amendment. I purchased two this year, but the first one I bought 5 years back. So
Okay.
I'm still three in, but it was one long break and then two very quickly after, like you said, listening to what you had to say. So thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And Richelle, so first off, Richelle's actually calling from Barbados. She was on vacation, relaxing. So yeah.
Yes, I'm visiting my family, so I'm being a slacker and hanging out.
No, and thank you so much for calling on your vacation. That takes so much dedication because I know once I go, I don't always look back. So it's pretty admirable that you're willing to help out.
Yes, absolutely, no problem.
Okay, so Richelle, tell us when and why you started to investing in real estate, and especially the why. Like, what made you think this was the way when there's other ways to start building wealth?
Sure. Well, I purchased my first property in grad school, and I don't know, I think I always liked houses. So when I was finishing undergrad and I was looking for graduate schools, it was very important for me to choose a place that I could both afford to live comfortably on a graduate student salary.
Yes, I understand
So
that.
I was, like I said, I was studying to get a PhD, so I had to be in a place where I could afford. So I didn't want to go to New York where I'd have to have 12 roommates, okay?
That's true.
And I wanted a place where I could afford to actually purchase a property, preferably a place with more than one bedroom so that I could have a roommate. Ideally, I wanted a duplex, but the money only stretched so far. So I ended up going to Austin, Texas. I went to UT Austin, Longhorns. Whoop. And so I was able to purchase a property there. And because I was in graduate school, I was low income. And
Yeah.
the benefit of that was that I was able to get down payment assistance from the city of Austin. So that means they paid for my down payment and my closing costs.
Nice.
And yeah, and a forgivable loan.
Keep
So
that in mind, college students. I'm not saying
yeah,
go do it without doing your research, but
yeah. So obviously it took some time to learn what all the options were. And again, I chose Austin on purpose. And I had to take first time home buyer classes and all the requirements for that. And of course you had to have a good credit score and everything else that you normally have to do to purchase a property, but they just help you get in. I think a lot of people have the issue getting into the property, but they can maintain once they're into it.
yeah.
And so that really helped the low-income population do that. And I knew that I wouldn't be low-income forever, so I just took advantage of what was available to me at the time. So that's how I got my first one. And still own it to this day. So it was a great purchase, and I couldn't be happier. So I ended up getting roommates. Basically, from about 1 month after I purchased it, I had a roommate the rest of my time in graduate school. And so
Right.
that obviously subsidized my living costs quite substantially.
Wasn't it
Uh,
great?
yes.
Did you feel rich? You're like, I know it's only $300 in cash flow, but I feel really rich right now.
Right. I mean, when you only have to cover the utilities, hope my little
Right.
roommates aren't listening. But when you only have to pay utilities, you really can get ahead. Now, I wish I
Yes.
could say I saved all of that, but I did my fair bit of shopping, I will admit. But it was great. I was able to live comfortably and well. And so, yeah, it was great. So I think I just always had an interest in it. And that, I don't know, when I get an idea to do
Wow.
something, I just do it. And my parents actually endorsed the idea as if it was a good idea. And I was
That
like,
doesn't
oh,
always
well,
happen with a big investment, because a lot of
right,
parents are scared that you'll get on over your head.
right. But of course, I ran the numbers, and this was in 2009, 2008, 2009. And
Oh, good
so
prices at that time, right?
good prices at that time, but there were still, you could get approved for maybe more than you should have. And so I think that I needed to be prudent to make sure that I didn't overextend myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very happy that I ran the numbers myself and didn't purchase a property just because I was approved for a certain number. I didn't go above what felt comfortable for me. I think that's important, where I wanted to make sure I could maintain the property myself, even if I did not have a roommate.
Right. No, I like what you said about running the numbers yourself. There's some people getting into real estate investing, and I hear the words come out their mouth. Oh, I need to find someone who can run the numbers for me. Should I do this with my money or that? And I like it, and I always say, I'm sorry, that doesn't really exist. You just have to run the numbers yourself. It doesn't have to be difficult. There's definitely guidelines. This is what you'll be paying in your insurance and your taxes and your mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are all basic things that you can figure out yourself to see if you would be cash flow positive.
Right.
But, it goes to show that it's like you can make money, but because of that, like you have to do some things on your own. That's not an established process. As soon as something's an established process, you usually pay a high premium for someone else to run your numbers.
I
But
think you
it's
just
okay.
have to, right. I think you just have to take ownership for yourself. And again, just because they approve you for a certain amount doesn't mean that
Right.
you feel comfortable with it or that it
Whew.
really is feasible. I still needed shoe money, okay? Like, and without shoe
Oh,
money, I wouldn't be happy myself.
I agree with you. I wish I would have had that foresight when I purchased my first house. That didn't go so well, but it got me on a path that works. So you were always interested in real estate investing. You chose Austin because of the low cost of living, and you were immediately attracted to going to housing. So I guess you were sort of around everyone talking about housing. I mean, ever since 2006, it was like houses, houses. Like from 2004 to 2006, everyone's talking about how high it went up. And then from 2006 to 2009, everyone was talking about how low the prices went. So I guess, during those 5 years, like it's in your head. And if you're already inclined towards it, it was
Yeah.
like an easy way to go, this can be my way. Was it to wealth or was it just, I just want this one house?
Um, I don't really remember very well. My mother is an interior decorator, so I've been around houses and construction and rehabs basically as long as I can remember. So
Mm-hmm.
she did everything from studs to flowers, essentially, is what I remember. So it wasn't a new concept to me of renovating a property.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the idea of generating cash on the side. I've always been the person that has a side business. I used to sell chips. You go to Sam's Club, get the large
Yeah.
variety pack, and I would sell the chips or the Tootsie Pops or whatever out of my backpack in grade school. I mean, so
You're unstoppable when it comes to creating money.
yeah, I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial streak. So uh, I'm lazy, and the idea that you can front load the work and
Yes.
reap the benefits residually over time is appealing to me.
Yes.
And there you go.
That works out perfectly if you're going to do real estate investing.
Exactly, exactly.
So your first house was about 5 years ago, and that was
Mm-hmm.
going
Oh
really well, and
no.
you still own it, and still I'm sure
Correct.
renting it out.
Correct.
Um, and that was with the assistance and down payments, and you
Mm-hmm.
had tons of roommates, which was great. Um, so now you're 5 years in, you're in Columbus, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna buy another property because you liked how the first one went, right? You're like, this is
Exactly.
easy peasy. If the numbers work, the numbers work. It doesn't have to be that complex. I think some
Exactly.
people make real estate investing complex. Really doesn't have to be.
It does
You
not have to be
right.
at all. It
Yeah.
does not have to be at all.
And you were gonna buy something for 150, then saw my blog.
Right.
What did you
So
take from my blog, and how did that change anything that you were going to do, and how did
oh,
that focus you?
absolutely. As I told you before, I wanted originally to get a duplex, but I couldn't afford one in Austin, and the prices in Austin have skyrocketed. In my opinion, I think Austin is kind of in a bubble. Uh, so when I came to Columbus, I wanted to correct my mistakes, so to speak, and actually get an owner-occupant duplex. So my grand plan was to get a duplex, rent out one side, and then get roommates on my side. I would be just
Rent
backsliving in money.
free. Yeah.
Yes, it would be amazing. And so, I have a full-time job now and a proper living wage, so I could afford more. Uh, and so I wanted to live kind of in the more desirable neighborhood. So I was thinking like the German villages of Columbus.
Yes.
So that's in the 150, 200, maybe even Clintonville, more of the university site of areas.
Up and coming. Yeah,
Right,
definitely.
up and coming, very stable. Higher end tenants tend to pay their rent on time and not give you
Mhm.
trouble.
Exactly.
So I wanted to be a lazy landlord. And then I found BiggerPockets. Probably I really became active on BiggerPockets late 2013. I got the itch to get out of grad school, so I really delved into that.
Right.
And but I found the podcast this year, and so I started listening to the podcast quite regularly. And
Mhm.
so I heard your podcast, and I was floored. Like I'm a scientist, and I like
Mhm.
things that are very methodical and make sense and are based
Yes.
on research and not just speculation.
I'm an
Uh,
engineer, so I guess we maybe have
correct.
something in common, our
Exactly.
background on how we approach things.
Exactly. So it made a lot of sense to me. So that's what I like. So your method really resonated with me, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And so that's it's like this makes sense. And so I looked for different parts of town that had crime statistics that I would be comfortable with, at
Yes.
price points that I would also be comfortable with.
Okay.
Cross-referenced the two, highlighted them on the map,
Right.
and we went driving.
Boom.
I had to see
That's
how
simple.
scary. Right. I had to see how scary it is. So
Yeah,
there
for
were
yourself.
men.
And some are.
Exactly. Exactly.
And some are, and I'm like, hey, don't buy here. Not yet.
Exactly.
Not
There
yet.
were a few where I saw wayward men kind of walking around in the middle of the day. Yeah, that's not the place for me. But then I found a few others, and I'm like, okay, this is reasonable. This is doable. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So
That's it.
there you have it. And then I got frustrated because this is about I don't exactly remember when yours aired. I want to say somewhere around March or April or something. Anyway, around that time, I was getting quite frustrated because I hadn't found anything. And I targeted in on my zip codes of
Yep.
interest, and I knew the price that I needed to be in at and the rental price I could get. And if I'm going to meet the 2% rule or something
Yes,
like that,
absolutely.
this is what the number I need to be all in at. And so I was basically stalking the MLS like a hawk for an REO that would fall within the price that I was willing to pay.
Mhm.
And I missed out on like three of them because I was a little slow. I was out of town traveling for work, yada yada yada. One came on the market, and I guess I was just pissed off enough to really take action. So I told my realtor, put the offer in, make it contingent to me
Yeah.
seeing it, put the offer in sight unseen. This is the number, and at this price, I'm willing to play ball and roll the dice.
Okay. What made you that confident? The statistics and the photos, the statistics and everything was matching up.
And
Um.
I had driven all the neighborhoods, so I knew everything street by street in my target areas.
Okay.
So
Good.
so not that I haven't lived in Columbus that long, but I knew the area well enough that this was a place where I'm okay being.
Mhm.
And this is when you know what you want and you have it defined, then all you
Yes.
have to do is act.
Yes.
There's really nothing to hesitate because the research, the premeditation is already there.
So what was the price? And
House number two was 18,000. I think it was listed for 24.
what
I
was
may
the
be wrong.
condition? What was the conditions?
Uh, ugly and stinky.
Ah, well, I'm okay with that if it's structurally sound.
Yes, structurally sound, no problems there. It's a three bed, one bath, ranch style home.
Okay.
So it's not the Taj Mahal, but
Exactly.
it is it's a nice family home. I mean, there's nothing bad about the neighborhood. It's people that are working, good, honest people that are working every day and need a good, safe place to live. And I knew I needed to be all in for around 30, and I could rent it for around 700, maybe 750 if I pushed it.
Absolutely. Great returns.
So I figured at 18, I'm willing to play ball. And based on the pictures, this is what I think it is. It didn't have a basement, so I didn't have to worry about that. So it took a lot of stress off, right? So in my mind, the biggest unknown would be a basement and what condition it would be in. Everything
Mhm.
else, I'm pretty fearless other than that. So, and the first house was a fixer-upper. So I had experience of replacing windows, replacing AC,
Mhm.
redoing the kitchen,
Yeah.
revamping the bathroom. I had a sewer line bust in the first one. So I had enough stuff go wrong with house one where I wasn't
Mhm.
timid for house two, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. I actually did a bigger pockets post. We were supposed to do this house in 3 months. It took a year. It was like maybe the first real big rehab, and I learned a ton. I mean, that's why I was able to share with you because I learned everything that
Hmm.
went wrong, so I could tell you about it. Right? This is
Exactly,
what you can avoid.
exactly.
But yeah, it gives you a good background. But I do now tend to go, you know, less work, less work, less work now. What do I
Hmm.
have to do to get that house that has that but still offers the rents, which,
Sure.
I'd recommend to anyone who's new. So, so that was your all-in cost. Can you tell me a little bit about financing this one? How was it a combination of savings, or did you go to a traditional bank or credit union or mortgage broker through your real estate agent? How did that go?
Well, this one I paid for with cash. I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's another reason that gave me confidence. So basically, this was my down payment for the 151.
Yes,
Basically, I just bought a whole house for it, which
I
was
know.
baffling to me. Like,
Isn't that
wait a minute,
interesting?
I can buy a whole house for the down payment on another one.
Right. Yeah.
Seemed like a no-brainer to me. So
Yeah.
there you go. So I did that, and then I got a cash advance for the remaining of the fix-up costs. So that's 0% interest for I think a year, and
Ooh, okay.
yeah, so it was everything came in under budget, and I'm happy. So I'm all in for 27,
Okay.
and I have it rented at 770. So I went to a business plan writing class, and they were talking about how you can get additional money for I forget exactly how they phrased it, but basically add-on services or add-on amenities.
Yeah.
And so I rent them a washer and dryer instead of including it. So I rent them a
Ooh.
washer, so the rent is 750, and I rent them a washer and dryer for an additional $20 per month.
Oh, wow. Any other ideas? That's a good one.
Oh, it's awesome! It's awesome. So yeah, and I got the washer and dryer both at Goodwill, right? So total investment in washer and dryer was $150, and I'm renting it for
Already
$20.
returned. Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing returns, like a 200% return. Uh,
exactly.
so your
So
first property was, how did you finance those types of renovations?
uh,
It's always a
that
curious question.
well, the first one I had saved for a down payment, but I was not able to contribute when I got the down payment assistance from the city. So I
Mm-hmm.
used my down payment that I had saved for the
Okay.
renovations.
Good,
That's how
good.
that one worked.
So just
So
good savings is a real big part of your strategy. But this was cash advance, so that was sort of interesting as well
yeah,
for one
that was
year.
new, a little timid, little,
Well,
so
yeah, well, you have to pay it off in full or else you get the full interest payment. So
true,
you just knew
true.
that, you're going to do the rents and then contribute as you needed to make
Right.
sure it was done. It would be a combination of both to make sure it was fleshed out.
Correct, correct, correct.
Just, I
So,
guess, just being really strict and frugal.
which is a habit of mine. I've been in school all my life, so
Yeah,
as far as I'm
yeah.
concerned, I have being frugal it's no problem now. Now, ask me 5 years from now,
Well,
okay.
that's exactly it. Maybe we
But
need to look at that as a benefit for people in college. Like you're in a lifestyle where $400 and having roommates isn't that hard to do. You're not
mhm,
like I tasted the manna. I only want to stay here.
exactly,
You're in that. You haven't tasted anything, so
not at all,
you
nothing.
don't
So
know.
I figure,
I don't know any better.
exactly,
Like,
exactly. A low cost lifestyle is pretty. It's
yeah,
simple to me now. People make
yeah.
fun of me because if they have free food at work, then I will bring Tupperware and collect it and take it home
I
and eat it for dinner.
know.
But hey, I'm able to save money that way, and I don't have any issues with it today. Okay, again, 5 years from now, I'll be singing a
Exactly.
different tune, but for now, I have no issues
Yeah,
with
5 years and now
it.
people would give you a little sideways look if you did it. But we
Like
understand
really,
it when you just come out from college because, a lot of
exactly,
us in that environment, professional environment, have been there. So
exactly.
so you're like, yeah. So you went yourself. You're like, it looks fine. And it's funny, like, I love you explain it. It is really this simple, which is why I started this blog. I was like, guys, don't Don't have just because people wrinkle their nose at you doesn't mean you shouldn't do this. You should check it out yourself before you let other people's vision overshadow yours. The game is to
Exactly.
buy low, rent high. And in these neighborhoods that if you can find that sweet spot, which isn't everywhere, but there's enough for everybody who wants to get involved, I think to have at least a
Hmm.
few.
It's
Um,
crazy. I thought the rents would be very low in those neighborhoods. I was surprised. I don't, it's more expensive than I thought it would be,
yeah,
which is baffling.
it only
I,
goes up too.
I just really don't understand that. I'm grateful. I'm very happy, but on the opposite side, I was like, oh, this can't rent for more than $400 per month. I mean, it's just so cheap. But no, it rents
Yes.
for like a proper home. And
Yes.
I got the first one for 80,000, and it rents now for $1,000, but originally it was renting for 900.
Well,
And
that's
now
still
this one,
amazing too.
well, yeah, but
Yeah.
you're at 1% versus 2%, 2.5%. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm up there to 3 on some of my homes,
this
so
is this is apples and oranges now.
exactly. So, do you think you're going to continue? I want to ask about the third house, but for now, you're going to continue in this working class price range now. Like
So
once you've
far, so
tasted
good.
it, you can't go back. Like
So far, so good.
I
I mean,
can't go above 50,000 at this point.
I
Like
just
I
I
I
see
just
no reason not
can't.
to. I see no reason to go above this. I mean,
Mm,
it's not broke, so I see no reason to fix it.
exactly. And so, okay, so how long after before that got rented out? How long did it take from start to finish?
1 month.
1 month. Oh, that's great. That's great. It
Yeah,
didn't
it was most basically just dirty and stinky. So
Okay.
people smoked inside, and so it had a lot of that smoke like condensation on the
Yeah,
ceiling.
yellowing and
Yes, exactly. And I had to vinegar all the cabinets to get all the grease off,
yes.
pull all the
I've done
carpet.
that. I scraped that off.
Yes, it's disgusting.
But
But
it's necessary because when new people come in, they can tell if you've done the deep cleaning. That was my
exactly.
first house. Now I hire it out, but
Ah,
I've been there scraping those cabinets to get all the grease off because it's a slight subtle detail. Maybe it's the
mhm.
woman in me that makes sure I do it, but we all bring our own natural talents to it. So that
Oh
little
yes,
detail really speaks to other women who are usually the people who are renting from me. They could
exactly.
they could see the difference, with
Exactly.
those cabinets having the grease scraped off versus a cabinet where someone didn't even think that it would be an issue. But
It's true. I love a nice white oil base on cabinets, and obviously you have to get the grease off for that. So I took all the hinges off, soak them, and then spray paint the hinges a nice color, should get some
hmm
nice contrast. It makes the kitchen feel brand new. You
it
didn't replace the
does.
countertops. You didn't replace the cabinets. All you did was literally some elbow grease, a can of white paint, and a can of spray paint. That's it.
You what? So you do this on the oven or the cabinets?
On the cabinets. So I
So
take
you
the
spray
hinges
the
off.
hinges. Oh,
I spray
okay.
paint the hinges. Yeah.
Oh, that's an amazing one. Where'd you learn that one? Just curious. That's a good one.
HGTV.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So that one I did the hinges kind of a chrome color.
Yeah, so nice and
Yeah,
bright and shiny. And that's all
exactly.
you did, but it really perked the place up. That and the good elbow grease.
Oh man, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. I love anything that deals with hard work coming out and you making money for it. Like,
Yeah,
I don't like get rich quick. I worked hard and it happened. Because it's just validation that yes, this country's still great. If you do work hard, you do get the benefits. No one comes and snatches it out from underneath you.
and I don't know if it's necessarily hard work. It's just smart work, right? Because really and truly, you're just maximizing the money that you're putting into the property and where it's going.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's a nice weekend warrior type of project. It's nothing too bad. It's something that I can do myself. I don't have to hire it out. So it's nice and easy, and it's good fun, especially when it's not too cold outside.
And so how long did you wait before you got this third property? How long did you wait for your was it an itch? Because I get a little bit of an itch, especially when I see a lot of properties.
Well, I won't say that I was itching for number three per se,
Okay.
more so than actively had feelers out, I guess. So I was driving for dollars, so driving around looking for ugly vacant properties
Okay.
in my target area, and I wrote down the address and I looked it up in the tax records, like most people do, to find out who the owner is to send them a letter. But instead of having, Betsy and John at 123 Main Street, it was like, I forget exactly what the title said, but it was something odd, like City of Columbus, something, something. So I didn't understand what that meant.
Right.
And at my local RIA, I had met a title agent, and she and I have become quite good friends. So I asked her, what does this mean? I don't understand what this means. And she said this means that the property has been taken back in tax foreclosure. Like, oh, does that mean I can buy it? She's like, I don't know, because it's like a whole process. And the city of Columbus doesn't sell properties to individuals. They sell it to like companies and so forth. So anyway, she's like, I don't know, but here's a lawyer friend of mine that specializes in these properties, and maybe they'll be able to help you. So I said, okay. So I called this lawyer, and then when he responded to my phone call, he's like, I don't have it anymore, but lawyer two has it now. And basically, I went down the chain, lawyer two, lawyer three, lawyer four, and
Four lawyers. I had passed it off to someone
I
else.
think it was at least four. So
Okay.
I called on this one in March, and I it was available for me to buy in October. So I just put it on my calendar to check back in with him monthly.
What do you
So
mean available? So in the first month you got in touch with the final lawyer who happened to have the
I don't exactly remember how
responsibility
many
of it?
lawyers it was, but they
Or
said, call me back next month and you'll be able
gotcha.
to buy it.
Okay. So you
So,
called back every month until
right.
you're like, is it ready? They're like, no.
No. Right, exactly. So it's like, oh, I don't have it. And call Sally. Sally's like, oh, yep, sorry, it's not me anymore. Call, Joey. So at
Okay.
that point, I didn't know which firm it was because everything was not in the same city. So you have people in Columbus and in Cincinnati and all these other different
Mhm.
cities. So on my end, it's kind of hazy and confusing. All I know, they said, eventually you can buy it. So I called in October and they said, hey, it is, you can buy it. We haven't gone inside. We haven't looked at it. These are the photos that we have. We haven't had a chance to clean it up. You can take it as is for $7,500, or you can let us clean it up for $15,000. I
uh,
said, nope, I'll take it dirty.
but it
So
was like you had to take it as is. A bit of a contingency, 5-day grace period, or anything like that, or is it different in the tax lien world?
it was as is. There's no sort of
You give me a
inspection period.
check, there's no refunds.
No. If you want it, I mean, you put in your earnest money, so it was $1,000 earnest money,
Hmm.
and I mean, you can back out at that point if you want. But I guess maybe I'm a little bit fearless. I was like, at this price, I mean, I'm practically at the bottom already. Like
It's
this
very
is
low.
land value, right?
Very low.
Like at this point, I'm at land value. What can you lose? I mean, yeah.
What? So, I mean, so you did look at it. I mean, you
Yes,
periodically
I
looked through
felt
the windows as
I
much as
peeked
you
through the
could.
windows, which were taller than I am, so I was on the tippy toes and all that, and I didn't see it as well as maybe I should have because it was raining.
Yeah,
It was raining.
I almost put a bid on a house that I only saw through the windows and I stopped and I got inside and had all these structural issues. So
Yeah.
it does, so I mean, I didn't buy it, but man, I was so tempted because the outside was so nice. So book
Mhm.
and a cover, don't, it can work
Yes.
out, but make sure you're doing it at a price range you
Correct.
could take the hit.
Exactly, exactly. So like I said, I was fearless. And my plan was, hey, worst case scenario, I'll replace the roof and let it sit till spring when I can actually attend to it.
I had that, yeah, when I bought my first house for about 13,000, I was like, worst case, it just takes me longer to do it. Because I bought it so low. I mean, what?
What's the stress? There's no stress in that.
Exactly. So
So,
what did happen when you finally got inside? And so what was the tax lien process there? Put down an earnest deposit and a contract, or did you need
yes,
a real
they
estate
have
agent?
no agent. If you wanted to have an agent, you could, but that would just increase your price as the buyer, which
Yes.
there was no reason for me to do that. I did all the work. There was no reason to do
Mhm.
that at that point.
Mhm.
And it was a very simple purchase agreement, like 2 pages. It
Oh,
was
that is
two
very
pages only.
small.
It was very simple. It's kind of like buying a car, I imagine. Hey, you buy the property, here's the address, purchase price,
They
earnest
they had
money.
keys, right? They even have the keys. Sometimes they
They did
don't.
not have the keys
Yeah, yeah,
at
how'd you?
all. Did not have any keys. I had to get a locksmith to break down the door. Okay, like literally
Yeah.
nothing. And I, I did not have to use a title company, but I decided to use my title company friend because I knew her, and it made me feel safer because it was my first time doing it, and that's what a title company is for.
And
And
the
so they had to.
7,500, that was the back taxes. Ooh, I sorry I interrupted you, but that was the back taxes or all in cost for their attorney fees as well as. Can you
I got
break
it
that
for
down a bit?
All I know, they told me $7,500, and I think that was the outstanding tax balance. But all the details on their end, I don't know. But I got it, 7,500, no encumbrances, no liens.
Great. Okay. And your
So
your friend who did the title search made sure that was basically the only thing outstanding. So you're
correct. So
very
I had her do that
comfortable.
beforehand. So
Mhm.
right. So once I got it under contract, then I heard her to do a preliminary title search just to make sure there was nothing else and clarify that at this price there'll be no other liens. I'm not purchasing any other encumbrances. And so she did all that, and she was able to ensure what kind of it's not a regular like a warranty deed. It's another kind of title. A quit claim, a quit claim deed. So I had to make sure that her title company could insure that genre of title, and
Mhm.
they did.
Great.
And
Wow.
that
So
was it.
that's Columbus, Ohio. I guess that's Columbus, Ohio's tax lien methods. I've heard different things. Nothing as straightforward as get in touch with the lawyer who has it, and when they're ready, they tell you how much it costs. Sometimes I think it goes a little bit more. I think I've heard, well, we had to chase after it and then buy the note, and then we had all these fees on top to go into foreclosure. But this is, I
Oh
guess,
wow,
was
that's really
already
complicated.
it can depend, but I really think it depends on what municipality is. Real estate is so local, so it's nice to
Yeah,
know in Columbus that it can be very straightforward. You just need to get in touch with the last holder.
straightforward if you chase it down for March, April, May.
I guess if you get in touch with the last holder who has responsibility
Right, right.
through the
So
city.
from what I understand, there's a they sell out all the liens in one
Right,
big package to a
right.
company, and then that company can divvy it out. And so what I think is the last lawyer referred me to the person at the company that sells it. So like that selling body. And so this was a lady in Kentucky that sold me this property.
Would you do tax lien again, and would you go directly to this lady since she seems to have in Kentucky, since they seem to have Columbus properties, or what do you think
Well,
about the
the
tax lien
majority of
thing
their
since you've
properties
done
are
it?
in New York, so I'm not sure how many they get.
Okay.
And I'm still pretty cloudy on the process and not entirely sure how to replicate it besides jumping through all these hoops again. uh, so it's not difficult for me to be diligent, but it is time consuming. So I think it would be something if I were to do in large scale, I would maybe outsource it to a VA.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the sort of thing that you'd have to have a lot of cash for, which at this time I do not. So,
There's always a rebuild period. That's the
right,
period I'm
right,
in. I gotta get my reserves back up. I don't like
right,
being too lean. So this
exactly.
year I'm like, I gotta get reserves up so I'm savings, not necessarily outspending everything in another investment. Sometimes you need
Exactly.
those down years, and it's
Exactly.
okay
Exactly. So when I do it again, not that I had a bad experience, but
for the amount of
considering
work.
considering how it worked, it was a cash transaction, so you have to have cash or access to it. So today, no, but after some time where I can get reserves again, then yes.
You wouldn't mind if you didn't see anything coming up in the MLS. You wouldn't mind at all.
No, I wouldn't mind at all. No. Now, mind you, this one was significantly more damaged than number two and number one
Okay.
because it
Can
had been vacant for at least since 2012, from what I can tell, like
okay.
in tax foreclosure at least since 2012.
Mhm.
So I don't know how long it takes for you to stop paying taxes before you go to tax foreclosure. Maybe at least a year or two, and then it's been in tax foreclosure at least since 2012. So minimum 2 years, maybe four, some odd vacant. So the roof had caved in a number of the rooms. It was, yeah. But like I said, I'm pretty fearless, so I don't have any issues with that, and I'm okay with going down to the studs. That doesn't shiver me timbers.
Can you tell me about the renovation process on this last one since it was a little bit more in depth? Contractors, how did you do that? Did you use Angie's List? Did you use Craigslist? Not the biggest fan of Craigslist because unless they're hauling trash away, you can get a little iffy.
Right.
But can you tell me a bit about that and how you funded this extra part? Was
Well,
that all?
sure. Well, this one is still in progress, so haven't done it all yet. So
Yeah,
that'll maybe a follow-up one
yeah,
later. Uh,
absolutely.
but the main issue with this one was that the roof had caved in.
It
So
had water damage everywhere. Yeah,
actually, not really. So
that's
I have a
great.
friend in my local area that comes He says I drag him with me, but he comes with me on all the properties. So he and I went through, and so I looked at all the joists and made sure that they were not rotted, that they
Right.
didn't have any mold on them,
Mhm.
anything like that. So I think that the majority of the water was held in the insulation. So when you have a house, you have insulation in the attic, and so the
Mhm.
majority of the water was held in the insulation,
Okay.
and the floors were dry, which is crazy. There's
Interesting.
hardwood floors. I don't understand that. So it's
Oh,
a
that's
Cape Cod.
amazing. For
Yeah,
yeah, holes in the roof. Cause that's
yeah,
where all the damage. I've been in houses where that roof damage ruined everything because rain after rain just took the studs, rotted them out, took the wall, rotted that out. So
exactly.
and so you still have a beautiful hardwood floor.
Which is crazy. It's
It's
absolutely
amazing.
crazy.
Sort of
So
amazing.
it's a Cape Cod. So basically, the water settled right along the front and back of the house,
Okay.
and most of the water was just on the back portion of it. So that subfloor in at the back of the property, so maybe like 2 sheets of plywood need to be replaced.
Absolutely.
But that's about it in terms of structural issues. But none of the joists were damaged. None of the joists had any mold on them. I could see most of the studs. So, and for me, that was actually very good. So I didn't have any issues with that.
Mhm.
Uh, and the property was boarded up. So I didn't see that one of the windows was broken until I got inside the property. But essentially, I moved up the closing until basically I got it in contract, let's say on a Tuesday,
Uh-huh.
and they accept. I didn't really negotiate. I mean, it's $7,500. What are you gonna do?
You
I
got to
play
pay the
ball a little
back
bit.
taxes. I mean, there's no
I
getting
mean,
around
right,
that. It's not
I try
arguing
to
the
play
city
ball a
down.
little bit, but they're like, listen, seriously, at this price, you're gonna play games. I'm like, you're right, you're right.
It's always worth trying, though.
Yeah, right. And but then I saw how bad the roof was, so then we were able to move it up. So essentially, got a new contract on a Tuesday. I closed on a Thursday because
Wow.
there's no liens, there's nothing else. So there was really nothing to hinder the process, and the title work was very minimal. So anyway, uh, it was like a 2-day type of turnaround, and by that next Monday, I had the roof being replaced because that was absolutely critical.
Absolutely.
And of course,
What?
it's Columbus, and it's snowing now, so I needed it to be sealed up before that.
So once you got that down, what does it look like, or the other repairs and renovations that you might need? Because that was
Obviously,
the big one.
sheet
So what's
everywhere,
next? Oh, everywhere.
sheetrock everywhere. Um,
Okay.
the basement is going to need re-waterproofing on the inside.
Yeah,
The
I've had to
floors are
deal
going
with
to
that.
Yeah, the floors are going to need slight sanding and maybe a fresh coat of varnish.
Mhm.
Replace one window, as I told you before. Obviously, sheetrock around there. Uh,
Is plumbing okay? And
they didn't take all the copper,
ah,
so I don't understand why they didn't take it all. But
yeah.
I prefer PEX anyway, so it's not
Yes.
a huge deal breaker for me. And
No.
house number 2 didn't have any plumbing whatsoever.
I always have to go in and put new plumbing in. It always seems like 3,000 is the magic number. Every
Oh
time
wow,
you need new plumbing, I don't know. It does
your
depend
house
on where you
might be
are.
bigger.
What's that?
Houses may be bigger because the last one was I think $700 to run all the plumbing.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
this house is a little bit bigger. But so obviously I'll have to get new plumbing run. I'll have to check out the electrical because it's been vacant for a long time. And so I'll have to get a permit from the city because you have to make sure there's no fire hazards after it has not had service for so long. Um, and then obviously get the gas hooked up. So typical things that you have to do on every property. The furnace seems relatively new. The water heater is relatively new, so it should be functional. I don't see any issues. I don't foresee any issues with those. The major mechanicals. It doesn't have a condenser. Haven't decided if I will put one in as yet. But, you know, after the sheetrock is done, it's just a really heavy cleanup job. I go to Habitat for Humanity for cabinets. Use the laminate countertop from Lowe's for that,
mhm.
for the kitchen. I get all my appliances at Goodwill. You know, rinse and repeat.
Goodwill's a godsend. I mean, I'll just use it for my properties as needed. I use it for my own home if I need like a vase or something.
I
It's a
do all
hidden
my shopping
little,
at the
yeah,
stores.
it's a
I don't buy
hidden
anything
treasure
firsthand.
people don't recognize as such.
I don't buy anything firsthand anymore. No, I,
Yeah.
I,
So,
I, I love consignment stores and thrift stores and all that.
oh, so
So
do I. Our secret's out. It's not just Macklemore and his new song. I've been on this since 2008. Since the first
uh,
layoff.
oh, it's the best. You get such better quality stuff for less
Absolutely.
money. I
I,
don't, what I pay full price. I haven't been to a mall in ages.
Absolutely. So tell me, what are your goals now in general?
Mhm.
I think real estate investing as wealth creation.
Yes,
Even if you're on a small scale, even if you have 3 or 4 properties or five, I still think that matters when you get it at such a low price. It's completely paid off, and you're just getting
exactly.
pure profit at 2 to 3% of your all-in costs. That's just
It's
amazing.
wonderful.
So
It's absolutely wonderful.
what are your goals in this going forward now? Do you have any set
Oh,
goals?
absolutely, I do. I was thinking of going into larger multifamilies, and I went to my statewide RIA convention last weekend, which was amazing. And I was thinking of going into apartments until I went there. So I went there to learn about apartments versus
Mhm.
mobile home parks.
Mhm.
That's what I wanted to learn about. And I did. But now I'm really into self-storage. So I'm interested in learning about a self-storage facility. And as much as I like the idea of apartments, I think I prefer single-family homes because it just allows a lot more liquidity and flexibility. So if I want to sell one, then I can just sell it off as opposed to having this huge investment
It
where my buyer
is
pool is a lot smaller.
a lot more liquid, absolutely. And then if
So,
it's not selling as fast, just lower the price by
right, right.
a
And
little bit to make it move. It's real
you have a
easy.
lot more, you have more flexibility. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And you don't have tenant to tenant issues. I think that even though you don't get the economies of scale as quickly as you do in
Right.
multifamilies, I think for me, I think going so far, I prefer single family homes. I reserve the right to change that, but so far,
Yeah.
I'm really loving single family homes. And at these prices, I mean, if you can get a multi for 25K per door and a single family home for 30 per door, I'd rather pay that $5,000 premium to not have those extra issues.
Why, so did people, so you told me when we were talking on the phone, this is the same thing I battled, which is why I started this blog, because I'm like, why are you guys looking at me like I'm crazy when I say this? Because
I think
this
that's
is
one of the questions
math.
I sent you. Like, how do you
This,
deal with the stigma?
this is math, okay? I know how to play math, and I know
Right.
how to make money. So look, if you find a spot that isn't crime ridden, and the rents are high, I don't see what the problem is.
And I'm not
And
scared to be there.
a lot
That
of it, yeah, I think a lot of it, and I'm not, because I might be a single female by myself,
mhm.
you know?
Right.
And, I understand it's a class issue. I grew up poor. So maybe it takes someone from a poor neighborhood going, look, I don't get why you guys aren't winning this game. I've had setbacks and I'm still doing better than a lot of investors. If you have no setbacks, just go. Like it's waiting for you, and stop complaining about your real job because you can do this. But
Yes, you
even to
can.
this day, like people who haven't even been to these neighborhoods are just so sure that
It's
it's
the
crap. And
worst.
I'm like, there's a whole sector of society that doesn't make you know, who only makes $10,000 to $20,000 a year, and
Mhm.
they're not all in crime-ridden neighborhoods. Okay, they're living quite
Right.
comfortably on their salary. America is a big place. Everyone's accommodated.
Mhm.
So what you need to do is find the nicest accommodation for that price range because the housing prices match. But how do I deal with the stigma? Well, some people are more stubborn than others. So some people are like, oh, I would never go in. I was like, have you ever been? They're
Right.
like, and some people will back down like, no, maybe there's some good spots, but I'll just stick to the A and B neighborhoods and get my $200 a month. And then other people are like, no, I've never been there and I never will. Like they are.
I mean, like you
and
said, it's
and
simple economics.
it
It's
is.
basic math.
I get what they're saying because some people have gotten in trouble. And I think the people who've
Mhm.
gotten in trouble are people who, like I said, I think I bring like, look, this is what you're looking for. And it's
Mhm.
very down to earth. I'm not trying to, this isn't a gimmick, but maybe it's because my familiarity with these type of neighborhoods makes it so I can clearly explain what you should be worried about and what you shouldn't. But,
Right.
everyone else, maybe they went into it not knowing these things that are clear as day to me because I grew up with it, but aren't to them. So they got in trouble, whereas I probably wouldn't have went there. You know what I mean? So maybe,
And I
so that does make a lot of this. A lot of people
and
had made mistakes in that area.
And I think you have to decide what it is that you want. So
Right.
I think that a Class A neighborhood is an appreciation play versus maybe a B minus C is more of a cash flow play. And you have to decide what it is that you want. And when you're building, if you're building a fleet, okay, do you build a fleet of BMWs or do you build a fleet of Toyotas? I
Mhm.
see $30,000 houses as Toyotas, okay? They're
Mhm.
reliable. You can beat them down. You can use them over and over again. And you have a massive amount of them, and you just deploy them.
They
And
can
you
take a
just
little bit
go.
more wear and tear and make it
Right.
through. Well, they're
And they
survivors.
just
Yeah.
go. They're
Okay.
not fussy. They're not picky. You just ride them. That's how I see these. And so as far as I'm concerned, as far as building a fleet, if that is your goal, then this is the place to be. Now, if you're going for appreciation, then you're going to need the pretty little houses that you're going to make, 1% at best, please,
At
right?
best. At best.
At absolute best.
Sometimes you're in the low hundreds
Right. I mean,
until like a maintenance issue comes up, and even then
well,
it might
yeah.
take it out for the year.
I mean, house one, I didn't start actually making real money until this year when the rent rates went up. So when I was living there, it was totally great. But other than that, I was at 1%, and 1% doesn't make any money. I can tell you that. You don't make
Yeah,
any money at 1%.
because
You
it goes towards
appreciate
expenses.
and taxes and all that. And it's great. It's stable. People are going to pay on time. You don't have any issues. It's just a matter of deciding what it is that you wanted to do, which is why I was going for the multis with the duplexes, trying to really recapture that extra bit. And so this was really the solution to that, to the problem that I was having of how do I recoup more cash flow monthly without having to put so much cash out.
So does it feel good? Because I know it feels good for me. I'm just
Oh God,
wondering,
yes.
have I
It's
spread that?
amazing.
Have we
It's
spread
amazing.
this message to you?
It's amazing.
It
Oh my
does.
goodness. I can afford it, and
A lot of
it's not
security.
stressful.
I
It's
know.
it feels good.
And you
Uh,
own a house. Well, you have like 3 deeds. Like I have deeds. Like I own.
yeah.
Like if I ever had to, I have a house I can go to. Worst
Yes.
case scenario, which hasn't happened.
Yeah. I
Um.
was thinking worst case if so I live in an apartment even
Yeah.
though I'm three which is kind of
Exactly.
crazy.
Oh
But
yeah. Exactly.
and I thought I was abnormal, but I went to this conference this past weekend. I'm not alone. There's this guy, he owns 12 units and he lives in an apartment. I had to let that sink in.
I live in a dumpy apartment. I'm 5 homes in. I mean,
It's like, really?
my
People
job
are,
is in a high-end area. It was outside of the DC area. I can't afford a
uh-huh,
house there. So
yeah,
I get an apartment and I share that, but I can invest in Baltimore, Richmond, and Columbus. You know what I mean?
right.
Isn't it
It
funny?
sounds crazy, and it's
Yeah,
it's kind of funny, but
it is funny, I think.
you know, my rent is so cheap, and it has things that I care about right now, like having a building manager that I can make sure that someone is going to attend to the door, and I can be lazy and not have to check my mail. I love that,
It's
and that's
definitely a
okay.
long game. It's a long real estate's a long game. So
Right.
every day I wake up in my apartment, I know 5 years from now I have 3 fully paid off houses bringing in an income of 2200 a month.
Exactly.
So let's play
Exactly.
this long game for when that is free and clear, and let me
Exactly.
add to the portfolio as we
Exactly.
go along. And like I said, I mean I've lived off less, so I know 5 years from now I'm going to be in a very stable place, just alone from the rents
Right.
and the properties you own and possible appreciation that might come, which would be a bonus, but not necessarily.
Correct.
And, that's why I want people to understand that this is possible and don't let the class issues get in the way. They're real. They're there.
Right.
I understand them. I
But
am
they're
someone
just people. At the end of the day, these are people
right
and their
and
families and their livelihood. That's
and
it.
absolutely. And it's not like people are bad for thinking this way. Everyone has thoughts for reasons. There's a
Mhm.
reason people think a certain way. They've seen some bad
Mhm.
things. So what I like and I wanted to present to you guys that you took hold of was this is how to be more systematic about it to your own
Mhm.
comfort level. And you choose where that level is. As you get
Right.
along, your comfort level gets a lot bigger than it was because I know I'm a lot used to stuff that I wouldn't have been used to when I
I bought a
started.
house when the
Now
roof caved in. What are you talking about?
right. Like, I mean, just neighborhood things, the kind of people like now I can accept a wide range that I wouldn't be able to accept before.
Like, psh, no big deal. Just go buy
Not a
some
big
sheetrock.
deal. He ain't messing with us. Just
Sheetrock is
let
$8.95. A
him
huge sheet at Lowe's. It's not that expensive. Just
do. Right.
not that big a deal.
So you get in a different world, but so I'm glad that you did it, and it was very straightforward for you. I hope everyone takes from this and goes, I can do it too, because you can. It just takes
Yes.
action. I would say first, like you said, it's the goal setting, get the vision. Mine's one house a year for 10
Oh, I don't think
years.
I answered your question properly. So my goal for next year is maybe one self-storage facility, and
Ooh.
partner, I have my first private investor, and so we'll see where this goes. But if I could get maybe two or three more of those, and then maybe two or three for next year, that would be great.
I know
So
it's not real estate investing, but I might bring you on to talk again about your self-storage. It doesn't hurt
when
to
I
know
get one,
other
I'll let you
sources
know.
of. Yeah, no, I like that. That's your viewpoint. And quick thoughts before you leave. What did you think of the RIA, the Ohio RIA?
Oh my God, it was amazing. So I came from Austin, and I was fairly active in their local RIA, but there was not a Texas RIA,
Okay.
or at least not one that our our chapter was active in that I was invited to. I felt I learned so much. Granted, you're gonna get sales pitches, okay, and I think you have to go with that in mind. But aside from that, I met so many people that were people of action, which I think is
Yes.
really what it boils down to.
Yeah, they
Just
put their money where their mouth is, and they don't just talk
yes,
the talk. And I
yes,
love that about real
and
estate investors.
it's just so energizing, so wonderful. Like I found my people,
They're a
and
fun
so
group.
you
Had
know,
fun at my RIA. Even like not just like the business talk, but even the after hours,
yeah,
relaxing
it was
part over drinks
wonderful. It was
was a
wonderful.
really good vibe.
Yeah, I met so many people, and they're just willing to help, genuinely willing to help.
Yeah,
And Columbus is one of the more stable markets in Ohio,
it
in
is.
my opinion.
Oh
Uh,
no, economically doing great, which gives us
right,
stability.
right. So if they can do well in a Toledo or a Canton, why can't I do well in a Columbus? Like
Well,
seriously.
sounds
And you
like
can,
you are on the right track. And you feel confident about this and where you're going?
I do. Absolutely. Thank you so very much for your blog and your website and your podcast. And yes, you really transported my whole strategy going forward.
Yeah.
So thank you. I appreciate you so much.
You're welcome, and we will one day become rich together in this real estate game, one house at a time. Who
Absolutely.
knows? Our definitions of being rich are different. I have been unemployed and laid off, but had a house, so I was okay,
Right.
and got a roommate, so I was okay. So my definition of rich is different than other people. But
Mhm.
just getting to that point where you have income coming in, you don't have to work, and you don't have to worry about ever being homeless. To me, that's being a rich person.
Mhm.
So we all have different definitions, but like I just want everyone to start really getting there, and then after that, not only are we cleaning up neighborhoods, but we can pass this along to our kids in a very fundamental way.
And
You
it's
know,
addictive. Like,
it is.
oh my
It
God,
is
it
an
is.
itch. Yeah.
So when I finished school, I went backpacking in January, and I
Awesome.
only had house one at this point. And so I'm over in Morocco, and I get the email from my property manager. Rent is deposited. Now, mind you, I get these
Yes.
emails every month,
Yes.
every month like clockwork. But this time I'm in Morocco.
Their cost
So
of
let me
living
get
is
this
like
straight.
200 a month. So
Let me get this straight. It doesn't matter where I am in the world, this still is deposited in my bank account. No matter where I am in the world. Okay, yes, I think this is something I can get used to and can want to
and
do.
now you're in Barbados. So I'm glad. Yeah, you put all this together, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's wonderful. So I'm going back. Okay, next week I'm going back.
To the States, yeah. But who knows? Maybe 10, 15 houses in, you have enough being deposited where living
Yes,
where your
or
family's at isn't such a crazy idea anymore if you put in the work for the
exactly.
next
And maybe I
15
could get
years.
one here. So now it's a business trip and a write-off.
Absolutely, because you got to check up on that house.
Exactly.
Let me know how
So
that goes too. I am going to follow your career closely, and I'd love for you to come back because I like your energy and you're doing it, and so that just that action alone, there's so much to learn. And
mhm.
be it self-storage or their Barbados overseas investment, I think all of us, once we get this thing down, it does become very easy, and so we do want to branch out to diversify a little bit and find out if
Exactly.
something's maybe slightly less work or more work or better profit, but
Right.
less, you know,
The reason why I was
but more
thinking of
stable.
self-storage is that I was thinking, like, basically house one is great and stable, but it didn't have a lot of cash flow. And I
Yes.
was considering maybe becoming a merchant, like someone that sells things just to get that higher monthly cash flow. Now, not that I want something that is that active,
Right.
but I did like the cash flow of being a merchant. But essentially, self-storage, from what I understand from my seminar that I went to, this workshop, is essentially like a consumer product guys is real estate. Like this is awesome. This is something that it's a commodity. It's something that people buy or use just like they would a blender.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's in an asset class that I know and I'm used to. Wonderful. So I have a lot to learn. I
Yes,
know
and here's the
practically
deal.
nothing,
I don't have
but
any
I'm
time
sure
to
I
learn
can.
it, but if you take the time to learn it and can give us
Yeah,
an oral presentation, I don't have to read anything, that
yeah.
works too.
I'll keep you posted. I'll keep you posted. So I have a lot to learn. Obviously, I'm only a small time residential lady, and that's big time commercial. But if you set your mind to something, you can get it. So I'll let you
True.
know.
Set a vision. That's all you
Yeah,
need, just a
that's
vision.
all
Then you
you.
start filling in the blanks. But thank you, Rochelle.
Thank you
I'm
for
so
having me.
thank you for coming on, even while on your vacation. I love that. Uh, I have to say, I hope when people see this that if they were tempted, they go for it now. I hope they cross over. I want them to feel the sense of comfort I feel. No, I'm not rich in total dollars and cents, but man, I feel good. I feel secure, and for men
Hmm.
or women, that's a big deal. And
It is.
if I can help you do that, and then you help someone else do that, and we all give back, we can really, I don't know, really start passing down legacies, really start building communities,
Exactly.
and maybe be people who I didn't grow up into money, okay? So this is a
Hmm.
big deal that I'm learning how to create it, manifest it, harness it, pass it on. This is
Hmm.
something that's going to be new from, my kids forward, and that's a really big deal. They're, even if
Yeah.
they're poor, they'll know how step by step to get there, be it
Hmm.
from YouTube blogs or people like you. So thank you for coming on and sharing your story, and how it does make you feel, how it feels wonderful, and how it's inspired you to do more. And I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you so much. Well, have a great evening.
Thank you. And this is Lisa Phillips. Thank you for tuning into Affordable Real Estate Investments, where I give you an honest and practical guide to real estate investing at a price you can afford. Thank you so much. Bye, Rochelle, and have fun in Barbados.
Bye.